Hello all, welcome to Techgig webinars. The topic for today's webinar is Convergence of Cloud Computing and Project Management. We are delighted to have Mr. V. Srinivasa Rao, Senior Vice President at Mahindra Satyam, as expert speaker amongst us today. Mr. Rao specializes in vision strategy, leadership, organizations transformation programs management, advisory and decision support, partner relationship management, etc. VSR is the member of Global Leadership Council at Mahindra Satyam. He is instrumental in shaping enterprise business solutions at Mahindra Satyam. Gentlemen, the presentation will continue for next 45 minutes. If you have any questions, you can ask your questions by typing in the chat pane available in webinar software. So without further delay, I invite Mr. Rao to continue this webinar. Yeah, Mr. Rao, please share your PPT.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is VSR. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Please get started with the webinar. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is V. Srinivasa Rao, VSR. So today I take this opportunity to share some of my views on cloud computing and project management, how the convergence of these two disciplines really change the world and the way we manage the projects in future. So that's where I'm going to spend probably the next 30 minutes time, and after that we'll have the question and answers. So this is being sponsored by Project Management Institute, India, along with Techgig. And PMI India has started an initiative. So how to probably build the service delivery engine and project management, and what probably the impact will be there because of cloud computing, and any new assets, methodologies, or tools and techniques needs to be built. So that's where it is PMI India's endeavor to build those assets with the support from the volunteer organization. So I'm going to talk about what is cloud computing. Of course, I need not explain that, but I would like to probably set the context before we talk about the project management here. And how cloud computing changes the world. That's another important aspect. Then are there any new projects getting emerged because of this cloud computing? So cloud computing is going to impact the project management or global delivery model, GDM, of course, which is probably invented in India many decades back. So it probably going to change because of this cloud computing. Some of my views I'll share. And some new skills and probably challenges needs to be addressed by project managers because of this cloud computing environment. So this is the outline for the presentation. So I think we used to say cash is the king and probably different terminology, but now I'm sorry, it seems somebody is not able to see my PPT. Let me correct that. What is the problem?
Yeah, tell me now. Now, are you able to see now? Okay, how to share now? I have to repeat. We are on control panel now. Show my screen button. One second. No, show my application something is there. Not coming up. Yeah. Yeah. What is the slide you are seeing now? Able to see now? Information in fact. Yeah. Okay. How to come out of that this one?
Able to see?
Yeah. Yeah. Which presentation? Which slide you are seeing now? Presentation. Okay. Okay.
Okay, my apologies. I think now you are able to see the slide deck. Sorry for that. Okay, so I think I'm going to open this presentation with some statement like information is the king. So information is the asset to take timely decisions, corrective and preventive actions for the growth and transformation of businesses. Of course, you also can include governments. So I think that's where I think today information is playing a very vital role. So I call it as probably we used to say cash is the king, which might be there even today. But information is also becoming the king today to change the businesses or governments or even the people, the way they live. So technology has been playing a very critical role in providing the real-time and accurate information. So providing information 3 months later or 4 months later really doesn't help, which is outdated and doesn't even help to take the right decisions or preventive and corrective action. So the most critical thing here is how the technology is going to help in probably providing the real-time information and accurate information is the key. So I put it here something like 3 circles look at there. to get the information, which is real-time and accurate information, first thing is the business processes. So do we have the agile, lean, or integrated business processes? So very important for the success in the business. It's not like one-time activity. Success needs to be recurring. Then technology generates the required computing power. That's where I'm going to spend some time in the next few slides. Computing power is the most critical thing to play with the data and the information. So this technology automates the business processes and then captures, mines the data and provides the required intelligence. That's where the real performance of the business will be improved. Then coming to the third part, cloud computing, the technology which is very expensive. So is it something available to all at an affordable price? That's where, to summarize, how the cloud computing is going to really play a role. So the divide between the large organizations or developed economies versus micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises or businesses, can we fill that gap? Because of this technology, what we call cloud computing is possible, is another thing which we could really debate and discuss, which of course is possible today, the technology at an affordable price. Next slide shows a representation of, let's say, the computing power. Look at the bottom. There's an operating system, network, storage, and hardware. And then on the top, you have database machines, middleware machines, and then you have desktop or mobile applications. So the topmost thing is the real business processes. We just representative. The business processes for different industries might vary. Look at the bottom. The computing power is coming from hardware, storage, network, operating system. Of course, from middleware machines and database machines also there. So this is where the technology plays a very vital role. There will be many technology engines will be there. I have just given here a representative. So like this, there will be many technology engines will be there, which will help in generating the computing power, helping in developing the applications or using the applications and so on and so forth using multiple devices. So availability of computing power at an affordable price would change the world because that is an asset. And also the availability of this power will change the world at rapid speed. Look at here, it took 150 years to provide affordable electric power in India. Even today, so we are talking about rural electrification and so on and so forth. So it was probably invented in 1831. But the critical thing is speed is the essence. I don't think so we have another 150 years to wait to have this commercially viable computing power in India. When I say again computing power, you have seen in the past few slides, I have shown that hardware or network or storage or operating system, there are middleware machines or something different infrastructure is there that is generating the computing power. That computing power commercially needs to be available. Then only I think the changes will really emerge very fast. So in the real-time scenario, so we require many technology engines. So which I have shown schematically what a technology engine means, having the servers or hardware, operating system, storage, middleware machines and all. So imagine a situation, there are so many technology engines like that, so I call it as a data center, to generate the huge computing power. Today, there are many data centers which probably have lakhs and lakhs of square feet size and many big machines and hardware. So those are called data centers. So the challenge is to get the reliable computing power at an affordable price. Today, establishing data centers by organizations or governments is very expensive, and common people it is ruled out. So that's where we really need to look at how these data centers are available at an affordable price to the people or micro or small and medium enterprises. Look at some interesting statistics here. Government and industry have established large data centers. I call it as the many technology engines. So micro and small enterprises do not have the required money to build their own data centers. Look at the carbon emissions from these data centers which already exist will quadruple by 2020. There are nearly 44 million servers are there. consuming 0.5% of the total electricity available in the world. Data centers consume 25% of the corporate budgets. Electricity consumption, you look at here, today in the world, covering all the data centers, 14 power plants equivalent energy is consumed. That means I think it is 1,000 megawatt power is generated by each power plant. So 14,000 megawatt power is consumed by the data centers in the world today. Imagine how much carbon emissions and then impact will be there on the grid. The other important thing, the average utilization of the hardware. That's where I talked about the technology engines is only 5 to 15% of the capacity, because that technology engine or the engines are built for maximum capacity. In a business, if you really look at a typical scenario, the demand is not constant every day, every month. There are peak and they are down, but these technology engines and hardware is designed for peaks. That's where the utilization on the average in a year is 5 to 15%, which is another serious concern. So I think so small and mid-sized enterprises, they don't have money, but still they want the technology to support the business. There are some applications which are not in regular use. You might use yearly once or twice. For that, there is no point in procuring them. And in some cases, there is an urgency in setting up the operations in our business. That if you go to the IT department, they might say we'll take 12 months. Then you don't have time. So is there any way you rent those applications from somebody within a week's time or a month's time? Can you make it up and running so that you can avoid some of the legal issues or regulatory issues and so on and so forth? So considering all these things, what is important here is the smart data centers have to be established, which consumes less energy. There will be low carbon emissions, and the capacity utilization of these data centers, which I talk about technology engines or hardware, needs to be effective and should be elastic. That means when the demand is high, the capacity should be expanded. When the demand is low, the capacity needs to be shrink so that the utilization can be effective and also the consumption of the capacity is also effective. And next, okay, is it possible? So when I talk about the data centers, which are really today very thick data centers, can you make them smart data centers? Fortunately, the technology has come out now. That's where the cloud computing, I'm not getting into details here. There is a virtualization technology, there is a multi-tenant applications, and access through internet, and pay as you go, different attributes are there. Today the session is not really on the cloud computing, so I'm just leaving a thread here. There is a possibility with the technology innovation called cloud computing to build the smart data centers. That's where I would like to share in this slide. Okay, there is again a choice here. The data centers as an organization or a government or a non-profit organization. So whether you want to own or whether you want to rent. So it's like a car or a taxi. So yes, I can rent it and I can go to my office or I can go to the place where I want. Every day I can rent it, or I can own my own car. So that is also a possibility. So here there are two possibilities. Owning smart data centers, I call it as a private cloud computing, and renting smart data centers, I call it as a public cloud computing. When to go for what is a big subject which we could talk probably in my next topic, but I would like to probably share here there are two options. So in public cloud, which is probably available, you're renting the smart data centers. The applications, whether it is ERP or supply chain or desktop applications or office productivity applications, all are available on rental basis. You can pay for usage. And if you want to develop applications using Java platforms or any other IDEs, then you don't need to really procure licenses and all. You can rent them, you can develop, and then just use it as you go. That's called a PaaS. And if you want infrastructure, again, operating system, network, storage, and hardware, there is no need to procure yourself desktops or servers. As a company, as an individual, you can also rent that. So metering for chargeback is the key feature for the renting, like we do for our utility services like power and water. That's where I think the public cloud computing is playing a very vital role. A similar phenomena is applied within organizations or government. environments, which is called a private cloud. There I think the customers are not external but internal business units. So I think this is the context setting I thought the cloud computing perspective I would like to set. Now let us getting into, are there any business benefits or any other benefits to the citizens or community because of the cloud computing? Let me quickly run through some of the examples here. I'm in slide number 16. I have taken this from World Economic Forum. So computing power, now I talk about all these data centers at end of the day generate the computing power, enables the economic growth at rapid velocity. So can I divide this IT divide, can I minimize the IT divide between emerging and developed economies? If you look at the developed economies like United States of America, I think their IT spend per year is $80 billion and probably they have 1,500 plus data centers are there. I don't think so the same thing happens in India or Sri Lanka or Pakistan or in African nations or whatever. But because of that reason, these nations should not get probably punished not having access to that IT or technology power. That's where the public cloud plays a very vital role, where these countries and organizations can rent the required power and use for their requirement. Then this is where I think again the emerging economies can really demonstrate the innovation, prove the innovation by access the technology which is now available at an affordable price on rental basis, and then jobs and businesses can be set up in the economy. The next one you look at here, it also basically enables industry growth at rapid velocity. Minimize IT divide, again I talked about small enterprises don't have the money or the resources to have that computing power or technology or the data centers compared to the large enterprises. That divide can be reduced because of the cloud computing. And we can see the future of our business through simulation. Usually the simulations need a lot of computing power, so we can visualize and see how the future business looks like with permutations and combinations. So that can be really easily achievable through cloud computing, especially using the public clouds when you can rent that computing power. And it also improves the collaboration between suppliers and customers, because the collaboration tools can be available over cloud, where your suppliers and partners and yourself can access, and then you can really communicate, especially there. Then healthcare, again, if you really look at in healthcare, in the research, where a lot of data get captured during the clinical trials and all, now the computing power is available, where more and more innovation, data analysis can be done, and good medicines can be released to the market because the highest computing power is available, where data can be used for better decisions. In education, again, I think interactive and collaborative learning all over the world, people can connect, and the learning content can be probably available at a very affordable price. Even to the rural villages, the content could be available, which could be hosted on cloud providers, could be Amazon or Rackspace or something. Even people in the villages can afford to get the content at very low cost. So that's, I think, I thought how cloud computing, most of the time we talk about cloud computing in the context of technology, but cloud computing is going to change the economies, the education system, the businesses, the manufacturing sector, or healthcare sector, and so on and so forth. So it is more important for us to understand the business implications of the cloud computing, so that we can really do a better job as an individual or organizations and as a nation. Now let us get into the topic for today. So the emergence of new projects. Is it something really cloud computing enables any new projects? That's where the question. When I said cloud computing and project management convergence, a lot of people asked, I mean, what is the difference? I mean, project management is project management. So it's initiation, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling, and closure. So what is the difference now? So I thought some of the things probably differ, because this is a technology innovation which will probably trigger to have some of the new types of the projects. Some of the existing projects probably might also need to be tailored to suit to this cloud computing environment. So a few examples. So these emerging technologies like cloud computing have been increasing uncertainty and complexity in delivering different type of projects. Many unknowns are causing the failure of the project managers to deliver faster, better, cheaper, and steadier services. I'll just quickly run through the project mix we look at here. In the cloud computing, the services could be infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, or business process as a service. So in the public cloud, which is available from different cloud providers, whether it is Amazon or Oracle or Salesforce.com or the Rackspace and so on and so forth, where applications are available, infrastructure is available, development environment is available. So what sort of projects will emerge in this environment? Private cloud, within our own data centers, what different projects will be there? Public plus private cloud is a hybrid. Then there is a community cloud, that means some of the communities come together. Maybe the textile industry is a one community, project management is one community, or healthcare is one community. So the clouds can be created again under the community cloud. So what different types of projects will emerge? This is one dimension we can look at. So are there any different projects will emerge because of the cloud computing in this particular dimension? Just look at this matrix in slide 22. Then, so I categorize projects into multiple areas. So IT strategy and architecture projects. So that's where what all the new projects will emerge with the cloud computing. The second important thing is organizational capability have to improve. So that's where some projects, internal projects will get emerged. There might not be customer-focused projects within the organizations, but internal capability improvement projects. Then there are some development, integration, and migration projects. So because of the cloud computing, the way the infrastructure is set up, the way the applications are implemented versus the way the smart data centers and engines are set up, you have to migrate the applications, or you have to integrate the public cloud and private clouds, and you have to integrate on-premise and on-demand applications. And you can develop the software as a service or multi-tenant applications. So I think there are different dynamics are there. So because of those, any projects will get emerged. Testing and validation projects, infrastructure projects, and so on and so forth. Look at here, I quickly run through slide 24. I consider even developing a cloud computing strategy for an organization is a project. And the technology architectures in an organization will change because of the cloud computing. That itself could be a small project. And what is the best cloud path? A public cloud or a private cloud or a hybrid cloud. So build a cloud pathfinder. That itself is an these are all probably your internal projects or could be done with the partners. Next slide 25, I'm talking about organizational capability improvement. So we should have the learning assets, building those assets itself is a project. And when you're working in cloud environment, the disaster recovery and business continuity is very critical. So how you develop that particular plan itself is a project. Then cloud computing pricing models you have to develop if you are an IT services provider. So that itself you have to take up as a project with 3 months or 4 months. How the pricing models will change, whether it is a transaction-based pricing or a monthly subscription-based pricing. So what is that metering, chargeback, and so on and so forth. So internal organizational capability perspective. So I have given some 15 examples here. These are all just illustrative. So there might be some, there are internal projects needs to be really looked at. So credibility and reliability analysis of a cloud platform providers, that itself is a small project. There are so many providers in the world where an organization can take up an engagement to assess all these providers itself is a 3 weeks or 5 weeks type of a project. Then contract management and revenue models. This is another small internal project could be there. Then development, integration, and migration projects you look at here. So there is something like integration as a service. When I talk about the clouds, public cloud or private cloud or hybrid cloud, it's not like always you have only one. In any organizations or governments, there are a mix of these things. So still they have to talk each other. So the integration really is a very critical thing. That is itself is a different project. and then the SaaS applications development, that could be a different type of project. Migrating the existing applications from the traditional bare metal hardware to a virtualized environment in the private clouds itself is again projects. Virtualization itself is another project. So slide number 27, testing and validation plays a very vital role. So because of the cloud computing, what sort of challenges will be there when we develop applications or implement applications? So what sort of changes will be there in the testing projects? What additional attributes or parameters needs to be considered? I think that's where we need to look at what different types of projects will emerge, or the existing projects, if any changes needs to be built in. 28, the infrastructure projects, again, there are many in the cloud computing environment. So there is a virtualization of the databases is one project, virtualization of the hardware is one project, virtualization of the storage networks could be one project. Of course, you might do all these things at a time and an integrated program. So I call it as the cloud computing infrastructure transformation programs or whatever. Next is, of course, product development. There are a lot of product development vendors are there, like if it is a Salesforce, they have Post.com, which is a cloud computing application development platform. Whether it could be VMware or Oracle VM, virtualization technology they are developing. So that means there are product development projects in the cloud environment. So I think almost this is just, I scribbled 43 different types of cloud focused projects. Of course, somebody might ask, any technology innovation happens, the project probably there might be some sort of challenges will be there, impact will be there. I agree, but cloud computing has more impact than other technological innovations. That's why I think it is very important for us to understand what sort of different projects we have. Just representative, just illustrative. I'm triggering a point here. Think in our own context, any new projects will get emerge, or any existing projects will probably we need to manage differently. So that's where I want to really communicate in these slides. All right, so coming to really this cloud computing is going to impact the project management system. That is the question. Yes, my view, it will impact. I've given 11 points here. If you look at a very simple example, there are different types of the projects I talk about. Maybe virtualization of the infrastructure, migrating the existing applications from traditional infrastructure to a cloud environment which is virtualized. So if you take a development of the application, so that every project, what I talked here, 3 examples, have a different life cycle. Development project, development application is a different life cycle. Migrating of the applications to the cloud environment has a different life cycle. That means different phases and tasks and deliverables, what products will be there. So I think the project life cycles have to be, probably if you look at 42 projects which I shared, we'll have 42 project life cycles. So what is the work breakdown structure? This is one important element will get impacted, so we need to look at. The global delivery model, which we basically, from India it is emerged. Is there any impact? I believe there is an impact. In the future slides I am going to talk about it. Contract and procurement management will change when you partner with different cloud providers who are basically spread across multiple countries or multiple regions. So that piece is very critical because you are getting into contract with probably with some of the vendors like Amazon or Rackspace or Post.com. So the procurement management and contract management, the SLAs, the pricing models, and the terms and conditions will get impacted. Project managers have to really understand that. Project governance structure will get impacted. The best practices and case studies are different. For every project you look at in the cloud environment, we have to understand lessons learned, checklist, estimation techniques. I talk about 42 different types of projects. You take an example of probably migrating a public cloud and a private cloud. So how do you estimate such type of a project, which is really very challenging? There are many unknowns, and it's not like we have done many times. So whatever the different project is emerged or any changes in the existing projects, basically, we need to look at any estimation techniques needs to be re-looked at. Different skills needs to be learned by the teams and project managers, and also the regulatory and data security issues needs to be looked at. I also go to the extent maybe this is debatable. Most of the people probably might be knowing PMI has its body of knowledge. 9 knowledge areas are there. Is there any new knowledge area we can put in there? Maybe security or information management could be one of the 10th knowledge area I propose to PMI, which will probably be useful when you are executing in cloud environment. So just expansion of the previous slide, project life cycles. I am in slide number 32. Work breakdown structure, phases and tasks. Maybe you will have new projects or the existing projects. If you take a typical example of development project, in a traditional way probably it takes 3 weeks or 4 weeks to get the infrastructure, or sometimes 3 months or 6 months. So you have to sometimes procure the hardware, you have to put an order, and software licenses availability there or not. But today probably you might get in minutes or in hours or days because of the availability of this public cloud or within your own organization. So the 6 weeks or 4 weeks initial infrastructure setup activities got shrunk to probably 3 days. That itself is a work breakdown structure. The activities what you do in a typical conventional environment versus the cloud environment varies. That's where one example I'm just simply giving here work breakdown structure. Then the global delivery model. Yes, I'll show in the next slide. It is going to get impact. I talk about contract and procurement management, governance structure, best practices, lessons learned, and competency building engine, and so on and so forth. I'm directly jumping to slide number 34. This is very important to understand today also. So as India says, we are best in global delivery model, but that was the probably in the past decade. But now this decade, 2010 to 2020, I think the GDM will get transformed to a new shape because of this cloud computing. These are all my views. So the GDM, I just put it here, probably 6 areas which comprises basically global delivery model. The intelligent work breakdown structure, that means when you have the project, so how the project is distributed across the multiple locations, multiple regions within our own organizations. Then cost optimization, abundant talent, follow the sun, quality management, knowledge management, and continuous learning. Certainly the breakdown structure will vary because you have now cloud providers are coming in. When you are basically distributing the work, you are not only distributing between our own development centers, could be India or could be Malaysia or China or Brazil, whatever. Also, you are distributing part of the work to the cloud providers. That means the work breakdown structure will vary. Project managers have to understand how intelligently they can break down that work of this one project across multiple partners. That I think certainly will affect the quality management processes will change. Because of the cloud computing, the learning and knowledge management will get improved. So let us look at the extreme left part. In my view, going forward in the global delivery model, so collaborate and compete. So there might be today different system integrators are available even from India. They are competing, but in my view, because of this cloud computing future, they have to also collaborate. The reason is, if some of the process platforms, somebody has a financial platform built on a cloud, X organization, probably another organization built a human capital management platform, then customer might prefer to have a finance platform from one IT organization and a cloud HCM platform, human capital management platform from other system integrator or IT provider. So it is mandatory that these two platforms have to talk each other. There might be a data transfer, there might be an integration between these two platforms. Remember, you are a competitor. Still, you have to collaborate. This is where I foresee more and more these things will come in the global delivery model. Then, in IT services or product development organizations, more and more the infrastructure optimization and virtualization will be done. Private clouds will be built. That's where I think they will have a possibility of providing IT infrastructure to their employees at a faster pace. Even today, most of the organizations are doing that. So extended partners, I talked about the cloud providers. So it's not just your organization, your existing partners, and there are extended partners like a few examples like Amazon I talked about, Oracle or Salesforce, or Rackspace or different partners. So that will be forming part of your ecosystem. Then I fundamentally also believe the mobility and cloud in the new era will play a role where global delivery model analytics, that means the intelligence about the projects which are distributed across multiple regions, the intelligence about the distributed teams, so on and so forth will play a role. And in the GDM, green will play a role because you are looking for an optimized IT infrastructure. So I think in summary, I fundamentally believe for this decade we have to prepare ourselves to see that how cloud computing is going to change the global delivery model. In the previous slides, I also talk about there will be different types of projects will get emerged, and that also will impact different elements of the project management that also I touched upon. In the slide 35, in my view, there are few skills what project managers have to refine to work in cloud environment. Number one, they need to understand what sort of new projects are emerging because of the cloud computing. Are there any existing projects or their life cycles will get impacted because of the cloud computing, and they have to learn those methodologies and life cycles. And project managers have to understand country law and regulatory compliance practices. In a passion and probably with my excitement, I can go and probably rent the infrastructure or applications from a country where the customer is sitting in another country. They don't want their data to be sitting, even testing data in other country. That will be a problem. So project managers have to understand each country law and regulatory things when they are renting the cloud related infrastructure or application development platforms, because customer country and cloud provider country might be varying. So some countries have very strict laws where the data cannot go out of the country. So project managers have to be aware of that. Security is a major issue in the cloud computing area. So I think project managers have to be aware of the security issues and what security standards. If, for example, as a project manager, I want to work on a cloud computing platform. So I have to look at how security is, whether any security standards are basically implemented there, whether it is ISO 27001 or something like payment card security PCS standards. So needs to be looked at. So agreements, SLAs, penalties, multicultural team management, and so on, so forth. So I think these are all very representative. But the point what I'm trying to emphasize here is cloud computing will also impact the skill requirement of the project managers in a more broader way, not just limiting to working in their own organizations. They also need to understand beyond their own organization. So few challenges what project managers must be aware of while managing cloud projects. Still the standards are emerging. So the multiple clouds are there within your own organizations. There is a cloud, or you might have rented from another cloud providers. So I think the project managers must aware the standards, how these particular cloud platforms are built. If they are not properly integrated, that is a major risk and challenge. So project managers have to be aware of that. Then cyber attacks is the project managers must know the challenges and risks because of the cyber attacks. Network compatibility issues. Your network, how it is designed. I'm not a network expert here, but still you have to look at the network compatibility as a project manager between your organization, cloud providers, and you also need to plan for that if any incompatibility is there. Legal issues and heavy penalties will be there. Project managers have to be aware of that, whether it is a security breach or whether it is the data should not move from one country to another country. Without having that knowledge, if the project manager start the project, organizations might end up with having heavy penalties. Network bandwidth issues, sometimes you are dependent on cloud provider. So if SLAs are failed, which is not in our hands, managed by cloud provider, then I think heavy penalties will be there. Then talent preparation on cloud computing and technology environment and skills. That is the most critical challenge in India today. Even for simple skills, getting talent is a big problem. Then how we can get the talent, the technology specialist, the business solution specialist, and then the project managers. So all these different mix of the people to manage the project successfully in this environment is another key element needs to be looked at. So So let us prepare ourselves. The past decade was wonderful for India, but there are many competitors are emerging. Many countries are looking at now. So look at, for example, how Philippines is becoming a leader in BPO industry. Let us not give a chance to others to become the leaders. Look at how project management is the key for India to become global leader in delivering variety of cloud computing projects. Let us prepare ourselves. PMI India has really started this journey now, and we are forming the forums, inviting a lot of specialists and experts in this space, and we would like to bring a project management engine, how cloud computing environment and related projects will be successful. We'll build a next generation global delivery model. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. Meeting. Huh? Meeting.
Share some questions.
No, I'm not able to see that.
How to expand the question bar?
Okay, I think the few questions I'm not able to see here. Let me try to answer a few questions here. What the typical used available that are need to set up a private or public cloud for organizations? So the question is not clear, but I think if you really want to set up, anyhow, public clouds might be outside cloud providers. When you talk about the private clouds, they are set up by your respective organization. What is required there is, as I mentioned in my PowerPoint presentation, your infrastructure has to be optimized. For example, in one of the panel discussions when I was discussing, one of my colleagues shared there are 2,000, for example, servers are there, or machines. They can become 32,000 virtual machines. That means you have to really look at one important aspect of setting up the private cloud is the data center virtualization, where you are basically dividing your existing infrastructure into multiple virtual machines, and then those virtual machines act like physical machines, where you have to re-implement all your applications on those virtual machines to make sure they are working fine. So I think that's one important aspect. After that, you have to test it, you have to migrate the data, and so on and so forth. You have to do it. So the private clouds can be set up like that. Then, what is the significance of data warehousing PMS in cloud? How the work breakdown structure will differ? The work, okay, for the, I mean, when I mentioned about any projects you have to look at, if it is a data warehouse projects, so because of the cloud computing, are there any additional activities you need to have in that project, or are there any activities which already exist in the work breakdown structure you can remove? So let us take, for example, your data warehouse platform or a business intelligence platform is available in a cloud environment. That is something, a public cloud, for example. So which you are renting it. So versus you want to have that data warehouse or business intelligence development platform internally, then when you are doing internally, the activities what you need to do, you have to approach your IT department. The availability of hardware might be a challenge there. So they might take some weeks or days. So the activities what you do there are different. But when you probably rent it from a third-party cloud provider, the activities what you do are different. So yes, this is one illustrative example. That's where the work breakdown structure will vary. So you need to look at what is the life cycle of the project for a data warehouse or business intelligence type of a project, and then see, because of this cloud computing environment, are there any different tasks will be added, or different tasks will, existing tasks will be deleted, needs to be looked at. So I think somebody asked about what are all the chargeback systems available, how it can help the cloud computing. The chargeback systems, there are many things are there. One is, I think, you can look at, there is a monthly subscription price where the cloud providers can, basically, you are using something in the cloud environment. So you are paying some money for the usage of the computing power through infrastructure or development platform or the application. So monthly some money will be paid. Or sometimes it could be a transactional based pricing. For every transaction you can pay the money. So there are different mechanisms are there. So I think that's where I think you need to look at what all the things are applicable for your own organization. So one question is how the business, can you elaborate how does the business scale up and scale out by making the data centers elastic? So look at here, I think when you set up a data center or when you are renting some sort of the infrastructure, take a retail industry, when the real sales are up, maybe during festive season or some of the holidays, but not really every day. But unfortunately what happens is the IT infrastructure we design, the hardware sizing we do it for the peak load. Maybe yearly it happens 20 times, but it is very highly peak load. So that's where you are using 5 to 15% of the total hardware what you are using it and all. So now what you have done is this hardware what you procure, to virtualize that, as I mentioned example, a 2000 hardware machines available today can become 32,000 virtual machines, that means your capacity has gone up, so that your additional demand can be taken up very easily when you have 32,000 machines with the capacity where effectively you can utilize it. And if you probably don't want that much capacity, okay, then you take a public cloud scenario. Only when you have the peak load, then you can rent for more power. That is scaling up. That means a retail company, a retail shop can take monthly once or twice when they have the more demand. During that time, they can take more capacity. And during normal days, they don't take more capacity. So when they take more capacity, they pay more money. When they take less capacity, they pay the less money. In that way, I think the elasticity is built in the cloud computing, in the public cloud environment. But if in the private cloud environment also, internally the business units can play a role of internal customers, then IT department might play a role of a cloud provider. They also build the data center which is elastic and smart by optimizing the number of machines to many virtual machines, so that the availability of infrastructure is at a faster pace, and probably the elasticity also can be built. So, is there any new project management certification planned for cloud related PM? That's still not planned, but I think that's where, as I mentioned, PMI India started an initiative. So we need to really look at, it's all just exploration phase. We have to really do some research, what probably will get impacted because of the cloud computing and on project management. So any real certification is required. I think that we could explore, but still it is not in that phase now. So is it possible to use the cloud computing for construction industry projects? I have deployed several open source applications on cloud with some modifications. How do I get benefited out of these applications in cloud? Okay, I think there are two aspects here. The presentation what I have given today is more of IT service providers and IT product development providers. But when you look at the other side, where the engineering and construction industry are a projectized organizations, whether it is something like pharmaceuticals or defense and all, where there are managing so many projects. I think the project management system, what you talk about, it could be any system. It could be, for example, it could be Microsoft project management system or a Primavera or a PlanView. There are many sophisticated systems are there. As you rightly said, even open source systems are there. But you have to really look at, are these available on cloud by third-party provider where you use them when you want? I think that's where you have to look at. So if those applications are available, still I think that scale, enterprise scale project management systems availability on cloud is emerging. But there are very small collaboration and task management type of tools are already available. But if you look at an enterprise scale project management system, in my view, I think they are emerging is something that I probably would like to share here. So the advantage there for you, an engineering and construction company, you don't need to procure any licenses for these big softwares. You don't need to develop, as long as you don't need a great differentiation or your project management processes are entirely different from others. Then certainly going for public cloud is not feasible, because you want something different. When you go for a public cloud, the applications what you use are same for everybody, not much of a difference. So if you want any difference in our project management system, certainly you need to explore internal, not really public cloud. So there are different things can be explored. So I think the other question is, how can you believe your sensitive data is safe in hand in case of cloud computing? Who guarantees? I mean, this is a very sensitive question. I mean, when you really look at 5 years or 10 years back, so when we want to do internet banking, I'm sure most of us feared and there was a lot of apprehension. But today I don't think so we have those apprehensions. We are doing extensively this internet banking, and it will basically the same thing happens. So how you guarantee in the sense? I mean, the guarantee in the sense, there are two ways of doing it. One is physical security, other is your hardware layer level operating system security is there, your storage security, network security is there, and there are virtual machines are there, then the security of those virtual machines, application level security. So many layers of security is there. When we are designing the data centers or applications or infrastructure, I think we need to look at how the security elements or antivirus softwares, there are so many things out there. We have to embed within that infrastructure. Then I think guaranteed, I think is a very difficult to answer. Even I think whatever higher security is there, the hacking happens. So I think what the precautions have to be taken so that the sensitive data is not really leaked. So, but there are many security standards that have come out which needs to be implemented as a part of the data centers. Could you elaborate on community cloud, how different it is from hybrid cloud? So the hybrid cloud is something like this. I talk about public cloud and I talk about private cloud. If I both bring together or integrate together, that is a hybrid cloud. When it is a community cloud, it could be a public cloud. Again, it could be a private cloud. But a community is coming together. So that if you take an example of a textile industry, there are so many textile companies can come together and they themselves will set up a data center and they have their own processes. They have their applications which they can host on that particular data center. So that data center is basically built particularly for a particular community, whether it is engineering and construction community, whether it is healthcare community, whether it is a textile community. So the cloud is built for that particular community. So the applications, processes or tools, everything relating to that particular community. The community cloud could be public, the community cloud could be private, the community cloud could be hybrid also. So I think one more question. I am sorry to say that I am still not clear how cloud computing is going to affect the style of project management. I strongly feel project plan and risk planning will get more affected. Please confirm. Yeah, this is the question which we want. In fact, this is where we are encouraging debate. In fact, PMI is doing a series of events in every city. The next is on 13th April at Hyderabad, collaborating with PMI PCC they are doing. This is a debate and discussion happening. Just to clarify how cloud computing is going to affect the style of project management. I think if you really look at any project, just one example I'll share, but I have shared so many examples there in my slides. The work breakdown structure or project life cycle will get impacted. That is the first thing which I would like to emphasize here. So you take a project called virtualization of the infrastructure. I don't think so before cloud computing the virtualization might exist, but they're not this intensity. But today you are coming up with so many projects. You want to virtualize maybe a 2,000 physical machines to a 32,000 virtual machines. I'm sure you agree with me, the phases, the activities, what you do differ, or which doesn't exist in the past with organizations to manage such type of projects. So I think that's very critical for us to understand what pages are there, what tasks are there, any new deliverables are there. So the other important aspect, I'll ask a simple question. Estimation is a major challenge today. I mean, you have implementation projects like package implementations, or you have upgrades, you have custom development projects, you have maintenance and support projects, you have application integration projects and all. Every project has different estimation technique. So when you are emerging with the new projects or new types of the projects because of the cloud computing, it's not only the work breakdown structure, the estimation techniques also will get varied. That's another critical piece which we need to look at. As you rightly said, yes, risks will be completely different probably, or some of the risks might get varied. And so 9 knowledge areas within project management, what PMI basically promote as a part of the body of knowledge. look at in this cloud environment perspective how they will get impacted. You talk about one, that is the risk management. Then the second, I talk about cost or estimations. Look at that. Then schedule management, is it get affected? Or your contractual and procure management certainly is going to be affected because you have many partners and cloud providers, third-party people, the SLAs what you agree there, the contractual obligations what you will have is change. So you also look at in the perspective of 9 knowledge areas, how they are getting impacted because of the cloud computing. Then certainly I think we will have an interesting discussion later. Yeah, I think the time is up almost. I crossed 6 minutes. My apologies for that. Probably I will stop here and hand it over to Techgig team.
Thanks, Mr. Rao, for such an informative session on convergence of cloud computing and project management. It was indeed an enlightening one. Thanks to the wonderful audience for making this webinar a huge success. Gentlemen, the recording of this webinar will be made available on techgig.com by tomorrow. Next webinar in the project management leadership series is on the topics value of project management. We'll be having Mr. Ramam Atmakuri, VP Cognizance Technology. So see you all on April 18. Thank you.